Okay, guys, Joe Friend Bhagwan here. This is going to be the 5th tape in the series of tapes dealing with women who have been raped. And as you might expect, when someone does something like this, as I create these videos and I listen to them, it causes me to look deeper into this equation, and more things become apparent to me that I wasn't perhaps aware of before I started this. And one of those things is why women don't report rape. We talked about that a little bit in a couple of the previous tapes. How I realized that so many of the women that I knew had some kind of a negative sexual incident in their life, and it was just because it happens all the time, and very often women choose not to bring it up. So let's start thinking about, why wouldn't a girl report the fact that she was raped? I think perhaps the most frequent cause of that is fear of a taint, a negative reflection on who they are. Where this comes in is men are very often not forgiving, and forgiving is the wrong word, because these girls don't have to be forgiven. They have to be appreciated and understood and comforted for their tragedy, not forgiven. And depending on your culture, it determines how far away from the likelihood that it's going to be okay within your community, especially within the men in your life. Who's the first bunch? Husbands, obviously. I mean, some guys, woman gets raped, they're done with her. Doesn't matter, she didn't bring it on, she had no direct involvement in it other than being a victim. Their ego is so shattered that, oh wow, man, their wife got fucked by somebody else, and that just shatters their... men have this notion, it's really kind of funny, and ladies recognize this double standard that exists in the world. It's okay for guys to screw around, but it's not okay for girls to screw around. Not if they want to move into a more permanent relationship. In other words, get married, have a family, and all that stuff. So, and realize that the more severe your religion is, don't be a Muslim girl and get raped and tell anybody about it, because you're going to be banished from your community. And many, Islam, like Christianity, has all kinds of sects, little groups of people, and don't need to itemize all of them. They know who they are. You kind of know who they are. Some of them see life as a wonderful thing. The Sufis are a people who've been respected throughout history as being wise, socially developed, examples of ways to live your life with great love and great character. And as you move to some of the other sects, you get yourself killed. If you're unfaithful, oh my goodness, the outlook is not good for your future. So one of the things that keeps women from reporting a rape is that she fears the retaliatory consequences that might be brought upon her by her religion, because they see it that if she got raped, she must have wanted it. The next category is embarrassment. Sometimes rapists do unspeakable things to the women that they rape. Even now as I'm talking to you, how do I do this without, hurting some of your feelings? This is not tapes about whether or not I hurt your feelings. It's tapes on whether or not I'm able to bring you to awareness about what goes on. Some women are urinated on, are defecated on, are forced to eat human waste as a part of the degradation process that the man who's raping her, or men, even worse, who are raping her, are putting her through most deliberately. Most psychologists will tell you rape is a power thing, not sex. It's power. Men exercising their domain over your entire being, up to and including your body. I understand that. At the same time, I'm telling you, if you let that keep you from letting out, it's going to screw with your life forever. You got to go back to this idea. Whatever happened, happened. It's ancient history. It doesn't matter. Only you let it matter. If you don't let it matter, then you don't have a problem with it. And that's what the Pathways are about. I started to do a Pathways tape, and for whatever reason it interrupted, and I'm driving, and because I don't have all 12 of them committed to memory, I don't want to be reading a piece of paper while I'm driving. So I went to this thing, and I'll do that Pathways tape sometime when I'm at home, where I can read something crisply without having to check where I'm driving, you know? Another reason women don't report rape is because the rapist was not violent enough to prevent the woman from seeing her rape as a gratification of her rape fantasy. If he beats you up real bad and hurts you, cuts you, whatever that is, you're probably not going to enjoy the fantasy. But if it turns out that he actually makes it as gentle as a rape can be, and this attaches itself to that. Sometimes, if it's prolonged enough, especially if drugs are added to the equation, the woman's body will surrender to the pleasure that might be available to her with all of that adrenaline flowing. You know, I told you that when my guy got me, I was 13 years old. When he first made his move, it was lightning fast. I mean, we were wrestling, and the next thing I knew, my pants were down and my dick was in his mouth, and I hit him. God, I hit him so hard that there were welts on his cheek from my knuckles. I also really, really pissed him off. He pushed my face down into the bed, and he punched me in my chest, right in the heart. Thought I was going to die. I told you, big, strong young man, 20 and a little bit, 190 pounds. Oh. So, like it or not, it became obvious that he was going to do it. That's what he said. I'm going to do this, kid. You got no choice. Make it easy on yourself. But still, I tried to intellectually fight it. And I told you, it's the day Ernie Banks let me down. Ernie Banks was my favorite baseball player. He was shortstop and then first baseman for Chicago Cubs. Hall of Fame guy, just a treat, Let's play two, Ernie Banks. I tried to think about Ernie to keep my mind off of what was going on, but this guy was determined. So I just there's nothing I can do. Eventually, he overcame all of my abilities to intellectually resist him because we already decided I'm not going to punch him. And I had an orgasm. It was my first orgasm at the hands of another person. I had masturbated, all young boys masturbate as part of their growing up process. Or, maybe there's 14 of you guys who didn't or don't. But majority of young men and women masturbate as a part of their growing up. Because I fought it so hard, that orgasm was huge. Huge. No drugs. This was, when the hell was this? This was I was 13. 1956 maybe is when that happened. We didn't have drugs, at least not where I lived anyhow. But now drugs are readily available, and some of those drugs that are available do things to your body that heighten your sexuality. So if you were administered one of those drugs and it went on for a while, especially if you were held by these guys for a long period of time, it's possible that your body got into it even though you didn't want to get into it. So now, remember I told you those guys have got you by the short hairs because they rely on your guilt. And when it's all done, your mind is saying, oh man, I did that. Jesus, I had 4 orgasms while these couple of 3 guys were doing this crap to me. And then shame comes in. Don't be ashamed. Just don't do it. Doesn't serve you, doesn't serve anybody else. If something happens to you, accept it. Well, this happened to me, got to deal with it. And then use things like these pathways that I'm going to talk to you about here in the next tape or two to work on neutralizing and then eliminating that shame that you were given. A lot of people say, well, my conscience did that. Conscience kind of has 2 flavors. One, deep, really the core of who you are, and other, a response to what you've been taught. And people confuse the 2 because they're very difficult to separate. It's not an intellectual concept that's easy to differentiate because the emotions are about the same. In either case, they're hard on you. Remember, we said that my job is to help you do better. Did I miss my turn? Oh, I missed my turn. And talking to you, and I'm going to have to do a little you here. But it'll take care of itself. So, let me see. As we're saying, I don't profess to have the headset that a woman or a man who's been really violently molested and raped, because that's not what happened to me. I got punched. I was a tough kid back then. I mean, I hit that guy hard enough. I don't know if I shared that with you, but it was about 3 months after that, I knocked out my first adult with a single punch. I went to a Catholic high school, and a brother, nasty bastard named Brother Leon, Holy Trinity High School. He hit kids all the time. He thought I was sleeping. I used to write. I didn't get glasses until early in my life. And I would lay on my arm while I wrote. And the last word out of his mouth was in my notes. But I was a kid from the south side of Chicago, and Holy Trinity was a north side school. So I was getting a lot of flack. Matter of fact, I was the only South Sider at school. We were 3 weeks in there. This is in my first year of high school. And I was getting chirped at by these guys, and I knew sooner or later I was going to have to fight at least a couple of guys to get them to not be on my case. And Brother Leon snuck up behind me, and he gave me a karate chop in my neck, which drove my head into the desk and genuinely hurt me. I assumed it was one of these guys taking a cheap shot at me. So I came up, bounced off the desk and came up, and I hit him with my best shot coming up with that power that you get from your legs, because I'm coming up. It's not just a punch. Now it's coming from the legs. My whole core is into it. And I hit him so hard that I sent him, I was in the second seat, I sent him all the way back to the blackboard. He bounced off the blackboard, slid down, his elbows caught on the eraser tray, and 10 minutes later, when all those kids jumped on me and drugged me to the prefect of discipline, is the brother who takes care of guys like me, and he was still hanging on there. He could not walk on his own. He wasn't on the floor, but I'm telling you, if those Israelis weren't there, he would have been on the floor. When they sent me to the prefect of discipline, I told him, I said, I don't care what you do to me, man. The old guy, he hit me from behind. He deserved it. Obviously, I didn't stay at that school. Little sidebar. I was been thinking about this. You know, I was in a lot of fights. And I really consider myself a tough guy. A sweetheart, but a tough guy. In all those fights I had, I only threw the first punch once. Only pussies throw the first punch. Fighting is something that you need to be able to do, but you shouldn't be instigating it. And a lot of guys with shit skills will try to sucker punch you. And my dad tried to teach me. He said, yeah, you're going to get in a fight. Just hit that son of a bitch. See if you can just knock him out before he gets a chance to respond. I always knew that was bullshit. So all you first punch guys, you're just pussies. You just don't have any skills. You're afraid of him, otherwise you wouldn't hit him first. The only time I hit a guy first was, I told you one night, those 7, I've been thinking, I told you 7 or 8 guys jumped me. There were actually 8, but only 7 were involved. One guy hung back. He had no taste for what his buddies were doing at all. But when that circle got to where you could feel the guy breathing down the back of my neck, I knew once they started I was going to be in deep shit because there were so many guys. So I hit the leader of that pack. I broke his nose, and then they did a number on me. And then he came around. I was on my back, curled up, trying to defend myself, keep my kidneys from being punched and kicked. Remember I told you about those engineer boots that those kind of pussies like to wear? That they like them because they can hurt you with the toes and the heels. He brought a heel down on my the front, where your hip is on the side and in that area as you round it, and he peeled back an area of skin probably 1.5 inches wide, and he pulled it back 1.5 inches. It's actually a flap. But I never threw the first punch. I consider that an allowable exception. If you don't throw the first punch, as a matter of fact, I'll share it to you this way. As long as you're not punching, you can be talking. If somebody else throws the first punch, and that's all these guys, what they don't realize, and I'll tell you why they do it, because they're afraid they're going to run into someone like me who's going to give them the first punch. Once you throw that first punch, you're mine. Because I can gauge what you got just from how you throw it. I told you I used to let them hit me because I was beat so much by my adults. I had all this rage in me that, I was actually a good kid, an honorable kid, a hardworking kid. But nobody could handle me spiritually because of all the stuff that I knew and how far it was from the stuff that they believed. It's just, I'm going to lose my train of thought here. If you're throwing first punches, you're afraid that if you did it honorably, that you wouldn't fight, you'd just be talking. Honorable guys don't want to fight. They want to talk it out. You got a problem? Talk it out. Don't be beating up some guy. I ran with a bunch of tough guys. There was always gang fights going on. And I remember guys kicking guys after they were down. I'm not saying I didn't fight them, but the second I knew they were done, I was done. I remember I took this one kid. He was quite a bit bigger than me, but I had good hands and I knew where to put him. He went down, and I could see that he just had no heart for it. So I backed up, and this other asshole that was with us, matter of fact, I'll tell you how much of an asshole he was. I'll tell you what his name was. It was Bob Kuda. He threw a beer bottle at the back of my head one time. If one of the guys, he didn't like me at all. So I didn't like you either, Bob. So here, we'll tell the world you were just a big pussy. So I don't usually name names of people, but this guy's an exception. Kuda ran over and says, he's still moving, and he kicked him in the face. My God. If you're one of those guys, ask yourself first why. Who beat you so bad that you need to take that out on somebody else? And then we come back around to that circle. Don't be beating people. No one deserves to be beaten. Stop it. It's how we gentle the world, you know. When a guy, because I was who I was, I ran with a bunch of really tough guys in Vietnam. I mean, serious. Just now you're talking about really serious people. And I was the smallest guy. I was about 165 pounds. Biggest guy was 255. Three-quarter of them had black belts in karate. And they weren't all gentle people. And they would often say to me, "Oh, Bob, we're so glad you're with us, man. You keep us out of trouble." Because I'm that gentling guy. You need to have strength. There's a, you know, we're digressing, but that's the way these things are. Jesus said, "Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth." People go, "Oh, yeah, they're going to inherit the earth." Did you ever ask yourself, well, who are they going to inherit it from? And I'll tell you, the honorable tough guys. The men and women who are willing to stand up for what's right. Not cower because their friends are all assholes, but say, hey, you know, let's say that you're that honorable guy and you run with a bunch of guys who are really nasty. You probably know that they're all just pissed off. Most of them, their lives suck. They hate their parents. And I told you those 5 guys jumped me with baseball bats. When they were wailing on me, you could see the hate in their eyes. For them, I'm saying I'm a 45-year-old guy. I was their dad, and they were beating their dad with a baseball bat. I mean, you could see the huff that they put. You know, if there's one thing is hitting somebody, and then the other thing is really trying to kill them with a baseball bat. That's where these guys were doing. That's why I'm very fortunate that I remembered Hardbody. So we're coming back around to you girls. I don't know what your reason for not coming forward is. And there's probably a lot more reasons than what I just shared with you. But whatever it is, start with that pathway that I tell you about all the time. I always remember that I have everything I need here and now, unless I'm letting my consciousness be dominated by demands or expectations based on the dead past or the imagined future. And if you have to say that thing 1,000 times, make it okay. I'm sure that I did. You know, to take a headset that I was operating on, wounded but tight, and turn it into this sweetheart that I am now, it takes some work. And those pathways, you know, I often tell you that Ken Kai saved my life, and he did. More, not just from gentling myself, which is an important thing in life, but also he helped me see how essential it is that everybody find gentleness and how much I might be able to do to help make that happen. That's why I'm doing this, to help you guys get gentle. It's not easy. You know, the things that you hold true are the result of years and years and years of programming that's telling you that they're true, that that's the way it's supposed to be. You've been hurt, and so you're just going to take it out on the world. The world doesn't deserve for you to take it out on them. They don't even know you. Now, if you feel compelled to take it out on the person that hurt you, I understand it. I would like you to find a better way. You know, it's like when I shared with you girls, you know, shoot them in the dick. It would be nice if you didn't have to do that. But if you do, in my world, that's okay. Because doing it, you'll be saying, I'm willing to take the guff for this. But since no justice is going to come any other way, the hell with it. I'll become an instrument of the Lord, a justice vehicle. You got to be careful with those kind of headsets. But you'll figure that out. It always comes to you. If you have trouble sleeping because your mind is racked with all kinds of stuff, work on the stuff. One at a time. I always remember that I have everything I need here and now, unless I'm letting my consciousness be dominated by demands and expectations based on the dead past or the imagined future, is the only bring it all in and gentle it as a clump vehicle that I know. All the other vehicles are designed to eliminate your problems one at a time. You know, I told you, if you got something going on, you got a voice back there, go down and find out what that part's problems are and solve that problem for that part, and he or she will become quiet in your mind. Once you've done that for all your parts, and sometimes it's hard, some of your parts have been really, really, really damaged, really, really violated, degraded. You know, that's we're kind of talking about this, you know, what would keep a girl from reporting the fact that she was raped. And then another sidebar is that you're not sure that justice is available through the system. And that's rampant. That's just rampant. It's always on you to take care of yourself, even though we live in a world where increasingly more and more people are trying to help you take care of yourself. I'm one of those guys. But I'm by no means, there's millions of them everywhere. Just allow yourself to be open to it. You know, I told you in one of these discussions that the one talking about families of rape victims. If you're in an environment that doesn't allow, let's say your dad's a rapist, or if your dad's a rapist, that's a problem. A racist. Your dad hates all those fucking whatever they are. His reason is because one or two things. A, it's been beat into him when he was a kid because his dad was a rapist. His community was a racist community. You know, you walk down the street and you look at a person of any other color. Some people still, that fucking whatever it is. But more and more, you get people like me who just smile. You know, I try to acknowledge every soul I come in contact with. I smile and I nod. Because if you're not prone to do that, start doing it and watch what happens. You got someone, remember I told you about all those people with sad faces that you can see the pain in their face? Next time you see one of those folks, just kind of nod at them and say, how you doing, bud? Or good afternoon, how are you? You'll be amazed at how many times it'll bring a smile to that person's face. And for some of them, it's the first smile they've had on their face in so long they can't remember. All of us need to help all of us. That's when I alluded to that. This notion of our job is to help everybody else make it through life in gracious style. And those guys should be giving us feedback. If they don't, who cares? You're responsible for what you do, not what other people do. I'm kind of thinking about this. If I missed your reason for not reporting your rape, well, I'm sure if we thought about it long enough, it would come up. But you need to think about it. Because if not reporting your rape is still causing you pain because you were raped and you took no action to mitigate that, that falls on you. This is a real hard thing for victims to understand. It doesn't matter what you're a victim of. It's your job to get over it. And if you're not taking the steps to get over it, then that's on you, because other people can only do so much. You know, I've repeated this. I always remember that I have everything I need here and now, unless I'm letting my consciousness be dominated by demands or expectations based on the dead past or the imagined future. Probably going on 50 times in these various tapes that we've been doing. And some of you probably who have a good reason to use it still haven't said it. I don't believe in that affirmation stuff. Try it. And try it several times. You don't just do it once. It's not going to work if you do it once. It may not work if you do it 100 times, but I promise you, by the time you do it a couple of 100 times, it'll start breaking down whatever it is that's driving you crazy. Be gentle with yourself. Love yourself unconditionally. So, we talked a little bit about conditional love. All those discussions were aimed at sending it out to other people. But the first thing, the single most important thing that you need to do for you is to start loving yourself unconditionally. Remember I said, you're a magnificent, wonderful creature from God. And no matter what's happened to you, who you are, how nasty you are, you can let all that go and come home just by being a sweetheart. You don't have to be doing penance. God doesn't care about penance. You know, flagellators are the guys who, they beat themselves as penance, as earning the right to be loved by God. If I beat myself enough, God will understand I'm sorry for whatever transgression it was that made me think that I need to beat myself, and He'll love me more. No, He's just hoping that you'll listen to my tape and understand He don't want you beating yourself. He wants you to accept the fact that you may have done something that's inappropriate, maybe even downright wrong, and to do what you can to mitigate it. If it's gone, just make it a point not to do it again. Because you can't go back. Always remember that. You cannot go back. Back is gone. The beginning of this tape is gone. All you can do is take every new opportunity that you're presented with and do the best job to gratifying the requirements of that opportunity that you can. And if you get in a habit of doing that, you'll see your life improve immediately. That's what we want, right? We want your life to improve, the quality of your life to improve. We want you to be a happy person, to be glad that you're alive, to be thankful that you're alive, to understand that life is a blessing, a gift from God, and whatever turmoil or tragedy He's put into that life was just so you could understand how to rise above it and acquire the ability to be one with God no matter what's going on around you. And if you start doing that, the stuff that one would call undesirable that you're doing will start to fade away. It just won't make sense to you anymore. If you're a pissed off, angry person, you can do all kinds of things and find some way to justify it. You know, like the guys who beat their kid. Hey, my kid, I can do whatever I want. No, you can't. It's against the covenants of life. Be kind to each other. Every time I think about this, I think of Bill and Ted's excellent movie. Do you understand that all the movie stars are mystic masters? Everybody's a mystic master, but they're out there. If you don't think that James Cameron and all of them, and I don't know if you've seen the movie Avatar. If you haven't, watch it. It would be really nice, I think, Mr. Cameron, if you would re-release it in 3D. What a powerful movie. The scenes around the great tree in 3D are breathtaking. Just breathtaking. And the essence of spirituality is there. So these men, they may not even realize, they might be agnostics or atheists. They don't give a shit about God one direction or another. That doesn't keep them from being a working instrument of God. Every bit of gentleness that is shared with the world by these master teachers, these actors, these music. God, there's so much music. So much music. And music is God's language. Even if he's some kind of nasty devil rocker, some people need that to get close to God, because it's all God. So don't be worrying about, they're always Footloose. It's a really interesting movie. The original by Kevin Bacon is hands down the best. And that whole idea is one young boy's willingness to stand up against a really stringent community doctrine steeped in deep fundamental Christianity that really doesn't want you to be having any fun. It wants you to be humble and be afraid and listen to what your minister says. You know, put some music in your life. Put some dancing in your life. Put some art in your life. Put things in your life that give you pleasure intrinsically. Just the simple fact that they're there makes it become a pleasurable experience. I think I'm going to let you go, even though now my understanding is these things can go longer. It's enough. I don't want to beat you to death. We've been fortunate the phone hasn't rung, and maybe you got something from this. I hope so. And that's all my take. I'm not seeing a lot of hits on my videos yet. And honest to God, the core of me doesn't care. The material of me would like them to click, because I'd like some people to come get behind me so I could, if I had some money, I'd open a training center where you guys could come and actually touch this stuff in the flesh. You spend 3 days with people, a weekend with people who have a sense of flow like I do, and you'll go home. We talked about that, this notion of sharing love in a loving environment. That stuff is just infectious. And you deserve that kind of an infection. I love you guys. Have a beautiful day. Bye-bye.